Damn, it really do be beautiful outside right now. But you know what it's not beautifuler than? It's not better beautifuler than you.
Hello everyone, Pantoufleee here today for a new video in which we're gonna talk about the Leo, the tier 7 new Swedish medium tank. Because here you are in front of a medium. Do not play it like the tier 8, the tier 9 and the tier 10, because if you do, you're gonna get wrecked so hard. So, for the sick purpose of this video, we are gonna tell ourselves that we're playing the tank fully equipped, because with this tank you have something special. You have the choice between two guns. Here it's not the purpose of this video. I'm gonna show you the overall playstyle. I'll do a brand new video on how to equip your Leo with those guns depending on your playstyle, but it's not the subject here. So here let's focus on the tier 7 gun when it's fully equipped, which is the derpy gun. With this tank, the pros and the cons. To make it quick, you have a long aim time, a little bit too long, a bad gun dispersion, sorry, 0.35, good DPM of 2.1 thousand, reload time 8 seconds, which is not that bad considering your alpha damage 290, 250 and 380 with HE. With your HE shells, you can literally rip apart anybody, knowing that you have a really great penetration. Actually, look at this, 53 millimeters of penetration with HE is quite high for a tier 7 medium tank. So when you're facing tier 6, if you manage to get their side armor, you're gonna have fun, because it means in 2 shots you are gonna kill them. You feature also an amazing gun depression, 10 degrees, which will allow you to be extremely versatile on hilly terrains. The main problem I have with this tank is the gold penetration, which is only 194. It's definitely not enough for you to go through enemies like Tiger 2s, Emil 1, Tiger 2, Lover, you know, these kind of tanks which are going to be a struggle for you to penetrate. That's why when you're facing tier 8s, you will have to play it sneaky. But don't worry, for you today, I'm going to feature to replace one top tier, one bottom tier, so you understand exactly how you want to play it. For the turret, quite a good turret as well, but I'm gonna talk about the turret armor directly into the Blitz armor inspector thing. But you have an amazing turret turn rate, and also an amazing hull turn rate, 57, nearly 58 degrees per second, so you're quite mobile. And if we combine this turn rate with your amazing mobility, which allows you to climb up to 45 kilometers per hour most of the time, for a tank that is quite armored, especially on the turret, it's amazing. It will allow you to take aggressive positions in all down, bounce shots, and also allow your allies to get some shots on your enemies as you're gonna spot for them. That's pretty much the Leo for you. Before going into the armor profile, I'm gonna talk about how I'm equipping my tank. I first go for the gun rammer, but I could also go for the calibrated shell to increase a little bit my APCR penetration, but only for 10 millimeters. I think it's not worth it. That's why I go for the gun rammer. After, I go for the enhanced gun lane drive in order to reduce my aim time. As I told you, it's a big aim time, so if we can reduce it, let's do it. And finally, I had the choice between reducing the aiming time or reducing the gun dispersion, but most of the time when I'm playing with my Leo, I'm not moving around while shooting. I'm standing because I know my aim time is really long. That's why I go for the refined gun to decrease my gun dispersion in order for me to hit my targets more often. After, defense system, because I'm not gonna ram anybody. Improved assembly, because you don't have enough armor to make it effective to use the enhanced armor, which will increase and strengthen your hull and turret armor by 4%. The toolbox, as the enhanced track is worthless. Improved optics, because I'm not a tank destroyer, I don't need to camp. Engine accelerator, because my mobility is great, so why not increase it a little bit. And finally, high end consumable, to use my adrenaline for a longer period of time. Concerning the armor profile, let's say that when you're facing tier 6 and tier 7, you can expect some bounces. But when you're playing with tier 8s, it's either they shoot at your gun mantlet or you're gonna get penetrated like butter. And let me tell you why. First, let's talk about the hull. As you can see, quite easy to penetrate. You only have 84 millimeters, so everybody will go through, tier 6, tier 7 and tier 8 included. The top part is quite angled. It reminds me of the P43 TER from the Progetto 65 line, you know, because here you still have 175 millimeters, which is quite a lot for a medium. And that's because this plate is really well angled, as you can see right there on the side. That's why it's actually an impressive armor. But of course, when you take some haste, for example, it becomes much more easier to penetrate it. But as most of the time you're gonna use your gun depression like that, yeah, like this. Here it becomes impenetrable for most players. Of course, you still need to be aware of this little cupola there, but don't worry, most of the time people don't even acknowledge that this exists, so no problem for you. Now, the main thing about the armor is the turret. Look at this. You have around 120 here. 120 millimeters, everybody will go through. And that's why this tank, unlike the Emil-1, the Emil-2 and the Krantwagen, is definitely not made for all down. Here you have a tank made for peekaboo. As you have a huge gun mantlet and your gun mantlet is quite armored, most of the time it will lead to multiple bounces. You will have to get into a peekaboo situation from an all down position. You sneak your shot, you go back to a safe position without exposing your hull, because if you expose it without moving your tank, you are going to get penetrated really easily. You also have a cupola there, but as soon as you are using your gun depression, the cupola is no longer a problem, and people tend to shoot more on your turret cheeks than your actual cupola because it's easier to penetrate, let's face it, here and here. Also, one thing, be aware that even if you turn just a little bit the turret, it becomes really easy to penetrate this part here, and it's huge. In game at least, it's really huge. So with this tank, don't try to angle or don't try to wiggle. With this tank, it's really you go out of your position, you sneak your shot, and you go back, and you need to show that to your opponent. Not this, not that. Stay straight in front of him, and it will increase your chances that he's shot is going to go into the gun mantlet, and therefore you increase your chances of bouncing. For the rest of the tank, pretty much paper, everybody will go through, especially with HE, so be aware that with this tank you need to put your front armor always in front of your opponents. Concerning the playstyle, guys, it's gonna depend on either your top tier or bottom tier. That's why I decided to put you two good replays I did later on with this tank. One being top tier, one being bottom tier, so I can talk about the two playstyle while showing them. Let's start with the top tier playstyle. Here you have an advantage, which is your mobility but also your armor. So here you can try to take aggressive positions in all down, as long as when you shoot you go back to your position safely and don't expose your turret. Because even if we are at tier 7 and therefore they are most likely to bounce you, sometimes you're gonna face a tank that is gonna use something called gold shells that are gonna fuck you up. So be aware that when you are done shooting, you have 8 seconds of reload, so please go back to your position. Now, on this replay, I could not manage to get into an all-down position. That's why I decided to circle them, use the mobility. You're not forced to use the all-down method all the time. I want to tell you, you can use the all-down method, that's the most effective one, but you're still a medium. And as a medium tank, you can try to circle around. That's what we did against the Tiger. Unfortunately, he saw us and came back for revenge. But we have some support. I wanted to circle the Tiger at first, but it seems like the T-43 decided to come back to my position as well. But it's not a problem because the guy died and the T-43 ran away. So for the moment, a pretty cool game. Pretty cool game so far, no, nothing hard. And here, just look at this. We're gonna use the HE and look how incredible the derpy damage are on this tank. 380, and look at this, we do that again, and oh boy, just look at how many HE damage you can do with this tank. And that's what is incredible with this tank when you're playing against tier 6, especially when you see their ass. Incredible. In 2 shots here, we did more than 700 damage in around 8 seconds as we start counting as we are reloading the second shell. It's just ridiculous the number of damage you can inflict with this tank when you are using HE correctly. Of course, using HE is not gonna happen too much, and as you do not bring a lot of ammunition with you, I would not advise you to put like 10 HEs in your magazine. 3 or 4 will do the trick because it's exceptional for you to use them. But when you do, it's kind of a gaming orgasm, if I could tell it this way. And so right now we're using the all down method. I know that I'm still exposing my hull to that STRV, but I had to if I wanted to kill him. And now we push in, we're gonna focus the T-43. I go for a first shot and I thought, hey, you know what, my friend here is gonna kill the guy, so I started focus on the Panta, and you're gonna see that it was a huge mistake, because now the T-43 is killing my ally. I need to get a shot in. Unfortunately, he managed to shoot right at the same time as I did, resulting in my death. But here it was quite easy for us, because even if we didn't hull down too much, we had to circle, we used our mobility, and it worked perfectly, allowing us to get our first class and nearly 3.7 thousand damage. Now for the second game, you're gonna see that it's a little bit different, as we are bottom tier. And when you are bottom tier with this tank, especially against some tier 8s like the Emil one, I can tell you that they don't care. They are just gonna shoot at you when they see your turret, and they are gonna penetrate. So here the peekaboo is extremely advised. Here we go first, sneaking a shot on Tiger. As you can see, it's a tier 7, he shot at my gun mantlet and therefore he bounced. But you're gonna see that furthermore in this replay, we are gonna get penetrated quite a lot in our turret. We managed to sneak a lucky shot on the Panta 2 here using gold shells. I was not actually expecting to penetrate, simply because Panther 2 is quite strong in terms of armor now that Wargaming decided to buff it, and as we do not have the best penetration with gold shells, I was sure it was a bounce, but it appears that it was not, thanks to the RNG god. So here for the moment, as you can see, we are not trying to play too much aggressively. Yes, we took 2 times damage and we are down to half our HPs, but we're not playing aggressively. As I told you, when you're bottom tier, you don't want to go recklessly like we did in the first replay, going around, circling. Now, with this tank, when you're bottom tier, you want to play it sneaky. You wait for your top tier allies to push in, and as the enemies are focused on your allies, here you strike. Unfortunately for us, a lot of tanks here are fully equipped and therefore they have a big ass armor. That's the case of the KV-5, which is one of the most armored tanks in the game, even if it has a lot of weak spots, which forces us to spam a PCR. We're gonna do it anyway, because even if we are winning for the moment in terms of kills, I see that the Emil one is pushing further, and therefore I thought, hey, you know what, you gotta do something. The guy is not watching you, so you know what, go in. I tried to circle him to see if I could get a shot, and unfortunately the Emil one decided to jump off, and therefore the Emil is gonna be able to sneak 2 shots into us. And here there is no way for me to actually bounce his shots, as my hull is made of paper. Luckily for me, the team saved my ass, and now there is only one tank to deal with, which is the RHM. That's why, as you can see, we are loading some HE, because I would like to do some 400 damage on this guy. That would be perfect. So if we sum up what I did here, I played it sneaky. I really hope with those 2 replays you see the main difference. When you're top tier, you are really pushing because you can, you have the armor for it. As long as you are all down, you should be safe. In tier 8, do not try this. Here we are playing sneaky, we don't try to take any shots, we wait for our team to push, and we wait for them to take damage as well. Perfect shots on the RHM here, we took 600, maybe 700 damage on him with our 2 Hs. These tank Hs are ridiculous, man, I really love it. We resulted in a 3.4k damage with the first class. I hope you enjoyed, guys. You learned how to play your Leo, but it's definitely worth it, and it's a tank worth keeping in your garage. If you enjoyed, feel free to subscribe, like and share, and I'm gonna see you soon for a stream on the new Swedish heavy tanks.